Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I look at the Pacific Revolution cards of 97 through 2000. Pacific in the mid-1990s was getting kind of carried away, and in a wonderful way. And in 96, they created two sets that were basically just big explosions of awesomeness. It was basically the concept of bright, shiny objects. Dynagon and Invincible. That's all they were. They were just gold foil or parallels of the gold foil. That's really all the cards came down to. And in 1997, they kind of ramped up this with Revolution. Now, with both Dynagon and Invincible, they wouldn't be able to last more than 2 years, so 97 was their swan song. But with Revolution, which started in 97, they were actually able to keep this going over the years. And in a way, it kind of makes sense because the design of the 97 card was a lot stronger than Dynagon and Invincible had been. But at the same time, it was so over the top that it's kind of amazing that it was able to be sustained. But that's simply because Pacific knew how to evolve it over the years. So for the 97 card, this is basically just an explosion of craziness. This is way too much. I've heard that in Hindi, the word for decoration is enough, and that if you add decoration, you're just adding more enough. And so you can always expand out enough if there's more enough to add. And that's really the only word I can use to describe this card. More enough. There is so much on this. First off, there's lots of gold foil, yes, but there are two different versions. There is some smooth gold foil, and then there is some etched gold foil. And between the two, they create a liveliness between them. And then there's so much silver holofoil. And it's not just silver holofoil, it's all kind of streaked, kind of like what Pinnacle was doing with Summit. So the card was just constantly lively. And the silver holofoil was in little nooks and crannies and these jewel little elements around the middle of the card. And then they had some artistic renderings of kind of like sky up above and some stadium down below. There's some shadow in here, a bunch of stuff. I've heard a rumor that there's a football player somewhere in the middle of the card. I don't know because I've never looked at the middle of the card. I keep getting drawn to the outside. Now, I would love to say that I don't get distracted by bright, shiny objects. Right now is not the time for me to say that because oh, I love these cards. These cards are just, they are one of the greatest examples of the 90s. This is way too much stuff. And I'm almost afraid of trying to put more on it because I'm afraid that it would kind of break the perfection that is this utter chaotic mess. I love it. On the card back, you can't really read the card back. It doesn't matter who looks at the card back. This is all about the card front. And like I said, with Pacific, with these cards, it's about parallels. And the parallels are very simply, you replace the gold foil with, in this case, red foil. That's the first parallel that they went with. They also had a copper parallel, and then they had silver and platinum. And the silver and platinum, because those colors are naturally very similar to silver holofoil, they went with a gold holofoil for these cards so that you would have the contrast. So understand that the gold holofoil is not a parallel of a parallel, it's the way the parallel came in the first place. So that was the set. I mean, that was literally the set. You know, they had rookies in it, they had veterans. It was basically just this, and it didn't need to be anymore. But that didn't mean they didn't have a lot of fun with inserts. And the first insert that they went with was airmail. Now, this is a gold foil card. Not holofoil, this is just a gold foil card. It is gold foil all the way. Basically, you have an image of a player, and you have the team logo, and those are not gold foil. Otherwise, it's all gold foil. And this is not embossed, and it's not etched. It's actually raised. So they have some slight raised elements on it in order to create the texture of the surface of the card. And they have die cutting around the outside, so it's a big stamp. So you have the stamp perforations on the outside. On the inside, you have like the wavy lines from the post office. It's really kind of an interesting card. It's both boring and exciting at the same time. So it's actually a lot of fun. And then they have proteges, and this is kind of the boring card of the whole group. It has gold foil all over it, and then they have kind of like this late 1960s artistic rendering of rays shooting from the horizon or whatever. This is a veteran and a rookie, so you can see the kind of the heir apparent in a way. It's kind of the concept of the cards. And these also come in a version where they have silver holofoil instead of the gold. That's about it for these. Then they have ring bears, and ring bears are a die cut card. It's done kind of like a medieval rendering of a ring. It's jewel encrusted. It's got some prismatic qualities for the ring surface. And it's not just die cut on the outside, there's actually die cutting inset as well. So around every one of the gems, they have some laser cutting that's in there as well. And so that's basically the way that these cards were designed. It's not super impressive, but it is kind of neat. But then easily the most unique of all of the inserts from these cards are their silks, and these came right in the packs. So this is a double size for a card. So it's basically like one card and then it's a double size on top of that. And these are made literally out of fabric. It's just printing on the fabric, and so they're big cards. And in the 90s, for something to stand out, it had to be really distinctive, and these fabric cards definitely were. These are among the things that I really miss the most from the 90s because of just how exotic and how unique they are. So for 1998, they decided to get more professional, which was definitely the right move to make. But they didn't want to take away the flashiness, which is the whole point of Revolution. And so they made a really good marriage of the two. The 98 cards are very professional, but they're not professional in a truly mature kind of way. This was done with all the energy and the flashiness of before, but in this case they still had the gold foil and they still had the silver hollow foil with all the striations in it, but they did this big swirling pattern around the player so that here it's actually showcasing the player. The player still gets kind of lost in it, but not as much. But the whole card, it just feels well designed, so it's a lot better. And the card backs are a big improvement as well. In this case, the card back looks like a Pacific card back. It's a big celebration of the player, and that's basically all the card back is. And then they had one parallel, and this was their Shadow series. These cards are identical in every way to the main cards, except they have a very, 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 very lightly embossed emblem right in the middle for the Shadow series. On the card back down at the bottom, it's serial numbered out of 99, so you can see that too. But my apologies for not coming through really well in the image because it is so lightly embossed and the card surface is so lively, it's difficult to really get a good image of these cards. It's very easy to miss these cards. And so if you have a big number of these cards and you want to look for this, my advice is turn the card over, flip it upside down, and run through the cards as quickly as you can looking for the serial number. That's probably the only way you're going to notice these parallels. But that was the only parallel for this set. So it was kind of an odd thing that they did. And then for the inserts, the first one they did was Icons. And Icons is it's an almost entirely die-cut card. It's basically a shield with a player inside, and then it's kind of like a burning cauldron in front. I don't know, like a shrine. I guess that's what they were going with. I don't care. I love it. I think these cards are really cool, and that's really all there needs to be said about it. So those are great. On the flip side, you got Primetime Performers. And Primetime Performers is a really boring card. It has a big gold football on it. It has like a fabric pattern on the back, I guess. The big distinction about this card is that they have a laser cut team logo that is laser cut into the gold football. That's it. It's not the kind of thing you're even really necessarily going to notice. Then they have their Rookies and Stars set. And Rookies and Stars is a bunch of veteran players and it's a bunch of rookies. So the rookies all have a blue background and then the silver holofoil all over the front. The veterans have an orange background. And then these cards also come with a parallel that's serial numbered out of 50, and on the front it is a gold holofoil. So that's the one big distinction about this set, but otherwise it comes with the basic cards with the two different backgrounds, but that's for veterans or for rookies. Then they have their showstoppers, and the showstoppers are kind of like the previous set. In this case, all the cards look the same, but they have all this silver holofoil all over the back for the text. And then they do have a parallel for the set that has, instead of a gold holofoil, this has that rich ruby red foil that I love so much. And it looks really good. So there are two ways that the cards came. One kind of pack and another kind of pack. In one kind of pack, you're going to get the silver holofoil. In the other kind of pack, you're going to get the red foil. So these are the two ways that these cards come. And then they have their touchdown die cuts. And this card is a really boring card, but has a really neat effect in it. So basically behind the player, within the goalpost, they have a net, and this is a laser cut net. And it's a really finely laser cut net in there. Now, it's not interesting in any way. It's kind of fascinating to look at the intricacy of what they did. But in my opinion, had they actually put a net into the card, it would have been a lot better. So Pacific kind of failed in that regard because while the technology is great, the card is not interesting. So in 1999, they decided to go to they decided to further refine the card, but not in a professional way. They wanted to go back more toward a big, flashy, shiny object. And they started off with a lot more silver holofoil in the background. The streakiness is a lot bigger, so it comes through as a more brazen kind of effect. And then the gold is kind of bunched down at the bottom to be a lot more bold. So the card itself is just bold. The card back is a little bit less refined than the previous year. They have more stats, which is kind of nice, but other than that, it's not really an improvement, but the card is better equipped for the parallels. And the parallels, in this case, there are multiple ones, and they start off with the red parallel, and this is serial numbered out of 299, and then they did their Shadow series again, but this time they changed the gold foil to platinum blue, and then again the silver holofoil was changed to a gold holofoil in order to create the contrast, and these are numbered out of 99. And then they did a third parallel, which is their premiere date, only in this case they didn't call it their premiere date. They called it their opening day issue. And this is done in the way the Shadow series had been done in the previous year. There's no difference between this and the main card, except right in the middle there's a circular pattern for the logo that is embossed into it. And then on the card back, these are serial numbered out of 68. And so that's the difference between these cards. But again, like with the Shadow series the previous year, the only way you can tell is either looking for the serial number or just happening to get the glint of light of the pattern in the middle. Now you can feel it, but when you're going through a ton of cards, it's very, very rare that you're going to feel something right in the middle. So these are a little tricky to find, but that was, again, instead of doing a premiere date, they did an opening day issue. That was the theme that they went with for the set. So then for the inserts, they got a little bit more professional in this case. They started off with Chalk Talk, and this is a horizontal card. This is very well done. Not too interesting, but the one thing on this card that is of distinction is the laser cut. The X's and O's are all laser cut. You're not going to notice it, but it is on there. And then with the icons are a lot better designed than the previous year. I can see somebody appreciating the 98 version a little bit better than this. This one I think is a little bit better because it's more refined. It looks to me cleaner and like a better presentation. I get what they're doing, but it also comes with a silver foil, which is very unusual. So just do keep that in mind. Then they did Showstoppers again, and in this case, this is probably the best designed card of the entire history of Revolution. These cards are really impressive. They have some silver holofoil in there in just the right amount. The whole front of the card has a very cool design to it. I kind of like the card back, not a lot, I kind of like it. But to me, whenever I look at this card, it looks like they really, either they were brilliantly inspired or they really kind of had down the design process and they took their time with it. Then they did Thorn in the Side, and Thorn in the Side is a partially die cut, basically just one corner is die cut, and they just have these little thorns basically coming out of it. They have a lot of silver holofoil, but instead of having the streaks to it, they actually have kind of a mottled texture to it, which is kind of interesting. But what I really like about these cards is the fact that the little spikes that come out are all pointed up and away, so that when you put it into or take it out of a sleeve, they don't jam, they don't grab. And so it's not like the Crown Royal Pro Bowl cards where it's really tough to get them into and out, well, not so much out of sleeves, but it's really tough to get them into sleeves. In this case, all the elements are pointed away so that it all goes very cleanly. So these cards are very unlikely to get damaged. And then it finishes up with 3 Deep. And 3 Deep is a 30 card set, and it's actually broken into 10 groups, but you don't really notice that at first. The card itself it's an okay design. The big thing is the little strip of gold foil up at the top, and they have a parallel to this, and that's what's of significance here. The parallel is silver foil, and each of the groups is actually broken into a different number of rarity. So the first group of 10 cards is a rarity of serial numbered out of 99, and then the second group is serial numbered out of 199, and then the last group, which is primarily rookies, is serial numbered out of 299. So at the base level, the gold foil cards, those are all equally rare. So that means that every single card you're going to get at the same rate. The whole set's going to come together in one process. When you get to the parallel, that's where the first group is the most rare and the last group is the most common. So that's basically the way that it works. It's kind of a neat trick that they did, and I do like it. So in the year 2000, you could see that everything was changing, primarily in Revolution, because guess what? There's virtually no silver holofoil on this card. There's still a lot of gold foil, but the card itself is just very well designed at this point. So that is a strength that these cards have, but still the dynamism is kind of gone. There is a little bit of silver holofoil down at the bottom with the team name, but this is done in kind of a prismatic form as opposed to the streaky way that it had been done before. So already the cards were being thought of in a different way. And the way that the parallels worked was they were still doing the same thing where they replaced the gold foil with, in this case, the red foil is the first one. And on the card back, these are serial numbered out of 99. And then they have the silver foil, and these are serial numbered out of 80. Now also down at the bottom, they changed the silver holofoil to a gold holofoil, again, as they did. And then the last one they did was premiere date, and this is actually a premiere date. It's serial numbered out of 85, and it's otherwise identical to the main cards in the set. And then they also finished this set up with rookies that were separated out, and these were serial numbered out of 300. All of them were. And then they did not do parallels of these because they didn't need to. That was kind of the thing that Pacific did, was when they serial numbered the rookies, they didn't tend to do parallels of them. So for the inserts in the set, the first insert was First Look, and this is just a very clean horizontal card design. It's really good. It's a bunch of rookies. It's kind of like looking through a scope at a player, I guess. This is kind of the concept they went with. And I do have to note that in the Beckett you may notice that they talk about a Super Bowl version of this card. The truth is that the Super Bowl version is not actually a parallel. At various card shows, be it the National or the Super Bowl show, different companies will do prints, little stamps on cards that they'll just kind of give away. And these are gimmicks. They're not parallels, they're gimmicks. But because Tom Brady's in this set, Beckett decided to flag that there is a Super Bowl version of these cards. It's not really a collectible. Well, it's a collectible, but it's not really a part of the proper collecting sphere. So they are there, but understand it's not an in-pack release, and it's not a send-away. Then they have Making the Grade, and Making the Grade is kind of an interesting card because it's more of a voucher than it is a card. Every single card, depending on the orientation, it's either the top right corner or the bottom right corner, there's a number, and the number is either 1, 5, or 10. And the idea is that if you collect 10 points and you send that card in with another card, Beckett Grading Service will grade a card for free. Now at this time, at the year 2000, the grading was still just kind of picking up, and so the grading companies were really trying to get people interested in grading cards. Personally, I think that it was kind of the failure of the card industry, and has kind of ruined it, but I don't want to go into a long diatribe about it. But at any rate, the whole point of these cards was they were doing it as a marketing tool to try to get people interested in grading cards. So if you collected 10 points either by 1 10 card, 2 5 cards, or 10 1 cards or 5 1 cards and 1 5 card, then you could send that in with a card and get it graded for free. I'm pretty sure that Beckett Grading Service is not going to honor these now. But that was the concept of the set. So these cards were actually kind of common because Beckett really wanted to get you to use their service. So that was the way that worked. Then they had Ornaments, and Ornaments is a carryover from a set that had been done the previous year. The previous year, the problem they had with the Ornaments was the fact that they actually had the cord for the ornament to hang in attached to it, and so it made packs of cards really difficult, but at least you could always see where the ornaments are. Here the cards are a lot trickier because they do not have the cord, which makes them fit in the packs better, and they fit in stacks of cards better. But because the cord's not there, you don't necessarily know it's there. It's a very thin card, and it will fall out of a pile of cards in a heartbeat. So, and if it sticks to another card, you're never even going to notice that it's there. So it's different, but that's the way it is, and understand it's not supposed to have the card. Then they have their equivalent of icons, and in this case they call it shields. So basically they just stripped it down, did it very clean, but that's in there as well. And then they did jersey cards, and the jersey cards are all serial numbered, but they're serial numbered to different amounts for each player. And that's basically it. So with Revolution, this was the run of it. By the end of year 2000, it didn't really have a place moving forward, or Pacific didn't think there was. I think that they had a lot more of potential for this set, but Pacific was really kind of winding down at this point, and they were getting kind of lost, which is a shame. But I really love the way the card set worked. The 97 set and the 98 set, I think, are just phenomenal cards, and I really love collecting them. The inserts for these are really all over the map, and they're fantastic. So this is a great card set, but it is one of the greatest examples of the grand height of the mid 90s. So that's basically what I've got to talk about with this. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you were able to follow along, because there's a lot that goes on with this. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do so and check out my other videos. And thank you very much for watching.